And also, I gotta start the recording.
Okay. Oh yeah, bingo. Right. Right.
By the way, I might leave this in the video. Just saying.
Cool.
Full transparency here.
Yeah, you're
okay.
up. You're good. It's you.
So, we just finished watching. Well, I mean, not just literally just now, but like yesterday we watched Blade Runner 2049. We did watch Blade Runner a couple weeks back.
Yep.
That was your first time. Technically my second time, although I count it as my first time because I was watching I was playing Minecraft when I watched it. To me, that doesn't count because that is a movie you have to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
Big thing. So, and this was a rewatch for me of Blade Runner 2049 because I watched Blade Runner 2049 for the first time before we watched Blade Runner, and now we rewatched Blade Runner 2049. What did you think?
I liked it.
You liked it?
I don't know if I liked it better than the first one.
That is a hard one. That is a hard thing to say.
I'm not gonna start there. Okay. I really liked that's Ryan Gosling, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Gosling is really he's gone up to like top level for me. I don't think outside of 2023, I don't think I've really seen any Ryan Gosling movies until 2023.
Yeah.
I want to say Barbie was the first one that I watched with like where he was a notable actor.
I don't know what.
And now I've just been seeing him popping up everywhere.
I probably saw him in The Notebook earlier this year though. Probably same this year, 2 years ago.
Yeah, but he's in at least in my peripheral, he's been popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
Like Blade Runner 2049. I watched The Big Short recently. He was in that. Drive. He's in that. And coming up soon, Fall Guy, he's going to be in that as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. We started seeing him everywhere. I think, but he was in La La Land, but I haven't seen La La Land. So
yeah, I haven't either.
There's that. So you're thinking maybe yes, maybe no on Blade Runner 2049 over Blade Runner?
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know?
So I really liked the original one.
Mm-hmm.
It just that last scene just goes a little long, I think, a little action scene, but I still really liked it. So Harrison Ford's great in that. I was so into this movie, like I forgot Harrison Ford was going to show back up. I was like 2/3 of the way through, and then it like flips Harrison Ford. I'm like, oh my God,
yeah,
that's right. He's back.
Which I've got to say though, for a legacy sequel, which there's not very many instances of legacy sequels being good. That is a problem in a lot of Hollywood movies today. They try to do legacy sequels and they're terrible. I put this at Star Wars, the sequel trilogy. Those are legacy sequels.
Yeah.
Technically, sort of not, because Star Wars has been running since 1977. It's been running since then, but considering the fact that the sequel trilogy was bringing back actors after like 30, 40 years after they had done the last movie, and so it is technically a legacy sequel. I think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is technically also a legacy sequel.
Yeah.
It was a fourth movie that came after the original trilogy. I want to say at least a decade or so after.
I don't know.
I do not remember when the original. I don't remember. I think it was 20. I want to say 2012 is when the Crystal Skull came out.
Yeah.
And that is widely panned as the worst Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
That is until this year when we have another legacy sequel, Indiana Jones.
Debatable.
Yeah. And then what else do we have? Not a lot of movies. Matrix Resurrections, another legacy sequel. The movies came out 20 years ago, then they're like, hey, we're going to do another one.
Top Gun Maverick.
Ghostbusters. You had the 2016 Ghostbusters, and then you have Ghostbusters Afterlife. The 2016 Ghostbusters, highly panned, widely panned. And then you have Afterlife, which got a lot more positive feedback. I'm not sure if I want to continue down that road, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how I feel later on. Especially because Frozen Empire is coming out this year. But as for good legacy sequels, I think there's only two that I can think of, and that is Blade Runner 2049 and Top Gun Maverick. Yeah. And personally, I think the sequels are better than the originals.
Oh, okay.
So for me, for Blade Runner 2049, rewatching it after watching Blade Runner, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I like this better.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason is I love the cyberpunk aesthetic with it. You'll see that that's one of the big things about Blade Runner is that cyberpunk aesthetic. And for me personally, I think the ability for them to be able to go further than Blade Runner was able to go with all of that.
Yeah.
So like you have Joy, Kay's
Yep.
girlfriend.
And I really liked who did that? Anna de Armas?
Oh, I don't. Oh, hold on.
I think it was her.
I'm pulling up the cast list.
Yeah, pull that up quick. Because she did a really good job.
This happened faster than I was expecting.
Yes.
So Anna de Armas, is that right?
That's what I'm gonna roll with. Anna de Armas.
Yeah, she played Joy.
Okay.
I think it's a very interesting role to have to play as an AI girlfriend. That is interesting. But one thing I found really interesting about her, like especially about her character, is it didn't feel like an AI girlfriend.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Like she is an AI girlfriend, but it actually feels like she actually does in fact care, in that she has her own thoughts.
Yeah.
About it, which is, I think, kind of an interesting way to go about it, with that kind of character, because, it's just not, like you would think they would just be like yes people, like a yes man or something like that, and it'd just be like, oh, I love and adore you.
And they kind of tease that almost at the start, I think, because I think when she gets introduced, she's like flipping between like 4 different things, like whatever.
Like she's able to change her outfits and everything like that.
You want me to read? You want me to cook? You want me to? And you're like, okay, yeah. So she's just gonna cycle through until she finds something he wants.
Yeah.
But then they kind of flip that on its head.
And then they're able to go and kind of build her character. And then they kill her off, which is I think that's a fascinating thing to be able to do, is to be able to kill off an AI girlfriend. Yep. And like actually make it like, whoa, I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
Like, and the fact that they were able to do that, like they set it up early on, like having her transfer, like that and not being a ridiculous thing too.
Yeah.
Putting her into the thing and just being that like stick, and being able to have her go anywhere, and being able to like play, and like they set up those stakes ahead of time.
Right.
And then they were able to pay those off later on.
And at least I cared.
Right? Yeah. Which, hey, it's always a win if a modern movie. Actually, you know what? At this point, if any movie can get me to care about a character's death, that's a win.
Yep.
That's a win in my book, because, unfortunately, I think this is something. I don't know. I feel a little weird about it, but like when Avengers: Infinity War ended, and you had the snap.
Yep.
I was grinning from ear to ear. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this happened. Oh my gosh. I was so happy. But the reason I was happy was because I knew none of the characters were dead for sure. Because they killed off all the newer characters and left all the older ones, all the older ones plus a few extra behind. I was like, they have not just killed Black Panther. Come on. No way.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, I was happy that they were doing it. I'm like, they're gonna reverse this.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But
which kind of sucks, because it's like you want it to be a devastating moment, but instead I was over here being like, I can't believe they did the big epic thing. It was like, whoa.
But you knew they were coming back.
But they're coming back, and they came back in Endgame. And so it's like,
yeah, it's like that's that.
I think another thing interesting to point out is Dave Bautista. I've started seeing him in a couple movies. He's Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
So he is someone. It's kind of interesting to see, because like all I've seen him in is Guardians of the Galaxy as Drax, and so seeing him in other stuff.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing is he plays the big tough guy with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Like that's just the character he's been playing.
I know.
Which has been kind of fun to see.
I'm glad he's like getting some roles outside of just being Drax.
I want to say Knock at the Cabin was the other movie I've seen him in.
Okay.
And he's had a big role in that one. The movie wasn't super great, but he had a much bigger role, which I really much appreciated.
I saw him in like a soccer movie called like Final Score.
Really?
Where it's like, it's not soccer. He's not playing soccer. It's like a heist going down in a soccer film, but he was pretty good in that too.
Interesting. Yeah.
Who else is on there? Harrison Ford is great.
Yeah, well, I think going back to my point about legacy sequels though, being able to make a legacy sequel where you don't introduce the legacy characters till later in the film.
Yep.
Also, one thing I should point out, this is something I didn't get the first time I watched 2049, but it was something that because after rewatching Blade Runner, I was like, okay, I was getting this now. But in that audio recording, you hear that is stripped straight from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And I came to realize, wait a second, So the woman who didn't realize she was a replicant,
Yeah.
she was
Was it Rachel?
Rachel, yeah.
Okay.
She didn't realize she was a replicant, and I think Tyrell. I think Tyrell was the name of the company
Yeah.
that was making replicants at the time,
Yep.
and now it is Wallace.
Yeah, they're the new
Um,
ones.
And so I didn't realize that Rachel from who was that who's that replicant who didn't realize she was the mother who was the one in the box. I didn't get that on
Yep.
my first viewing.
Yep.
And then
I
as
can see
they're
that.
going through and then you're hearing the recording, I'm realizing, wait a second, that they're talking about the bones in the box were
Yeah.
the person, and so she was the one who gave birth, and that's why it all leads back to Rick Deckard
Yeah.
in Las Vegas, is because of
How it all worked.
because he would have been he was the father, she was the mother, and she was a replicant, and so that's how all that
Yeah.
kind of plays in together. And I was like, I think that's a really interesting way of doing a legacy sequel, is doing it so that that kind of well, first of all, it respects the
Yep.
previous movie,
Yep.
but also it's telling its own story, it's telling its own movie,
Yeah.
but then it connects back to Blade Runner.
Yep.
And so it doesn't have to be it's not entirely, it's not all just member berries,
Right.
which
Because even I think it's Jared Leto.
Jared Leto, yeah.
Jared Leto plays the villain because he tries to go and say originally Rachel was supposed to try to fall in love with Deckard or program that way to see if they'd have a kid. Was that an angle in there? I thought that was an
Possibly,
angle.
because
It was a quick little angle.
I do know that and I do have to say, like, I know a lot of people hate on Jared Leto. I like him.
He's a good. No,
I think he's good. A lot of people hate
think
on him,
it's a cool
especially because of
actor.
like Joker.
Yeah, I
He
know.
plays Joker and also Morbius as well.
I know,
But
but it's not his fault.
I personally think I like him personally. I don't know,
Yeah,
just weird thing.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that was an angle. I think that was because he. That's another interesting point about the motivations is you have Kay, who's a police detective who wants
Yep.
to go to the or he's trying to find the child for the police
right.
for their reasons
Right.
to try to keep it under wraps so that there's no mass panic. And then you have the opposite angle where you have Wallace Industries wants to find the child because they want to replicate that. They want
Yep.
to do more of that. And so and technically I think what was really interesting was the fact that so Love was the assistant working for
Okay.
Wallace.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So Love, she didn't directly interfere. Like it wasn't like she kept interfering directly. She was just like she's basically just waiting for Kay to do all the work,
Yeah,
dirty
and then-
work for her,
yeah.
and she's just gonna track it all. And I thought that was kind of an interesting way of going about it instead of doing it like the traditional way of like for instance, like you think of Star Wars 7, right?
Yeah.
Where it's a similar thing, right? Where they're both trying to find Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
But then they're both fighting against a MacGuffin for the whole thing, and it's just like okay, it's kind of a ridiculous plot to be honest. But you have the two fighting each other for the MacGuffin to
Yeah.
find Luke Skywalker, and it's like why do you want Luke Skywalker? Well, he's
gotta
Luke
find-
Skywalker.
we gotta find Luke.
It's Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Whatever. So.
Oh. Yeah, that's a interesting angle. The music was. I really liked the music.
I have had a hard time trying to come up with the proper words to describe the music.
Okay.
I
agree.
want to say it's there's an ethereal element to it. I think.
It's a big word.
Like it's well, especially like when you have like Wallace in their
Yeah.
chambers and everything like that. Like they're like all the echoey. It's supposed to convey a type of ethereal nature to it all
Right.
because it's supposed to feel larger than life. It's supposed to feel like almost heavenly. I think.
Okay. I can see that.
And just like it's so echoey and it's like you think of what is the typical style that they'll use in media for the voice of God?
Right.
Big, deep,
Yeah.
and echoey, right?
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing, except for it's very echoey, and it's like I think an echo kind of just like resonates around you.
Right.
Like after the word goes, like it keeps going a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of the reason why they use
Yeah.
that.
No.
But the music at the end, like especially in that fight scene,
Yeah.
it feels almost like a trance, if you kind of get what I mean.
No, I could see that.
Where you expect during a fight sequence to have upbeat, intense music, and instead it's more like melancholy. It's sedated. It's long drawn out tones.
It still says this is a big deal, but it's not.
But it has a very different tone to it, and it was something that was so striking, so striking in the way all of that looks, and it's like whoa,
Right. Because it's a different director than the first one.
Is it the different director?
I think.
I probably assume so, to be honest.
Because I think it's the guy doing
Denis
Doom.
Villeneuve.
I'm not even gonna try.
Let's see if there's a quick link to Blade Runner. Yes,
More
there's
like
a quick
this.
link to Blade Runner. Okay, so Ridley Scott directed.
Oh,
okay, that's
wow.
right. Duh. I'm an idiot. Of course. Blade Runner was directed by Ridley Scott. So yeah, definitely different directors.
But I would say Dennis did a great job. Like it felt very similar.
It felt almost identical
Yeah.
to Blade Runner. It felt very much, because I think Blade Runner had a very similar vibe of because it's a lot of the movie is very stationary. I feel like almost it's a lot. There's a lot of non-talking moments where things happen, and it'll just sit on a moment. And I criticized 2001: A Space Odyssey for
That's what
being overindulgent in just sitting and looking at stuff. And I think that the difference I would say between Blade Runner and 2001 is 2001 it's like it's reveling in the imagery.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, look at this.
This would be
Don't you love it? Like it's just reveling in that imagery of, and by today's standards, it's fine. I mean, we've seen this stuff before. It's nothing of much interest to us in 2024.
It's not the same now.
Like a lot of like some of the stuff where they're like, okay, we want to like some extra dimensional thing, and we're just gonna do psychedelic lights or something like that. And it's like, well, what is that supposed to be? I don't know. Who knows?
Right.
We don't know what that's supposed to be. But
no,
like Interstellar, for instance, you had a Tesseract moment where you could use CGI to do a bunch of different stuff. But it's like Stanley Kubrick just wanted to just sit there on those shots of a guy floating out in space. It's like we just want to sit here for 5 minutes watching that, and I'm like, really?
It's just too long.
For 1960 something, sure, I get it.
It's cool.
It looks great for the 60s. I can give you that. But outside of that, I can't it just feels overindulgent. I think with Blade Runner, for me, you're sitting on the motions, not the visuals. I'm specifically thinking of the moment where you have Kay, and he gets that present for Joy, and then he puts her in it, and he takes her outside, and he's standing there, and not really much is happening, right? But he's standing there, and they're kind of having a moment, and she's caressing his face, and I just started thinking to myself, I'm like, she's a hologram,
right?
He wants to have this intimate moment with her, but she doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it's like she puts her hand on his face and he can't feel it.
Yeah.
And I start to think about that, and I'm like, this is incredibly sad, because he's sitting there and he knows this. As he's sitting, he's trying to have this moment at the same time, not being able to physically touch her, and he can't actually kiss her. He can't feel her touch, and it's like, and it just sits there in that.
And because it sits there, you can think about it.
You have time to feel it, right?
Yeah.
You have time to be there in that moment and to realize what are the implications of what exactly is going on. This is why, an AI girlfriend isn't the same as having a real girlfriend, right? Is because you cannot. She still doesn't exist.
Yeah.
She kind of exists but doesn't, and so it's a weird bit in there.
Yeah. They kind of leave, unfortunately, the ending Like they could make another one.
A little
just
ambiguous.
A little bit.
I think I did hear I was watching a video that meant said that he lays back and dies on the steps, but I'm like, when you're like dying of your injuries, it's always the kind of thing where it's like, but did he really die?
Yeah, right.
Like there's no confirmation
You really
that
got
there's
to
an actual die.
kill someone off. So
so it's like a he could be dead, he might not be dead,
right.
kind of thing. You don't know what happens really. It's kind of like an ambiguous thing, which I think is fine.
And I like this movie. It's just so hard to make a good sequel when you're not planning to. But I guess overall,
I have a thing. I have a thing about sequels.
Yeah.
I don't think good movies need sequels.
Yeah, especially if you weren't planning one. Like if you weren't planning one, it's a good movie. 9 times out of 10, just leave it as a good movie.
Yeah, and like for me, a lot of movies that I watch, usually the first one is always the best, and then after that, it's just because like you're focusing on a sequel, you know. Like for Star Wars, I like Episode 4. I think that might be my favorite.
Okay.
Back to the Future, I like the first one the best. Recently watched Austin Powers. I think the first one was the better one.
Right.
I'm debating on John Wick, which one I like better. I don't know. John Wick. Those movies are so great.
I gotta rewatch
all
of them to see which one I like best.
I honestly couldn't tell you because, like, I have a little. I'm leaning towards the first one because it is just that closed-in
introduces
movie.
The concept.
Iron Man is one of my top ones, although Infinity War is my favorite on that one.
Okay.
But like usually the first movie because it's supposed because usually they make it as a standalone movie, right? And then they build a franchise off of that.
Yeah.
They come up with this unique concept, and then they and there's some action movies like Taken or Die Hard that I refuse to watch any of the sequels because I'm like, these movies are good and great just as is. I will not watch any of the others. I think most of the horror movies that I just watched the first in the series. Most of them I will not rewatch any sequels.
Anything after the first,
just because I'm like, this movie was great by itself.
Right.
The sequels are just going to try to copy it, and they're not going to.
You had a good idea. It ran its course.
Exactly. I think Halloween is especially one where it's just like that movie. Like it was insanely cheap. Cheap. It was like I think in the 1970s. I think $150,000-$200,000.
Wow.
Literally, it was so cheap for a movie. It was basically indie, and it has become one of the greatest horror movies. And even after watching, I think I spent all last October of 2023, I spent that entire month going through a bunch of horror movies.
Yep.
And the last day, Halloween, I watched Halloween. And that one was the one that creeped me out the most.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the first out of the slasher genre. Maybe not. But it was the most influential out of the early slasher genre that really kicked off the slasher genre, and I think it might have been the best. Well, I don't know. I like Scream. Scream is really good. But like, it was the one that kind of just because sometimes just sitting there with things allows it to become creepier.
Okay.
You know, sometimes you get more out of it by just sitting with something. Rather than just moving from stuff to stuff. But I also do like fast-paced movies.
Yeah, you got to mix it up.
Yeah,
I can't watch 5 slow in a row, 5 fast. It's good to mix it up. So this is a slower one, but I enjoyed it. You know,
it's a good slower one.
I'd probably be with you. I probably liked it better than the first one.
Probably.
Honestly,
it's a lot of the colors, a lot of the neon lights. You could do a lot more with modern technology than you can, and that's mostly kind of why I like it better. So we will have more of these discussions going forward. We're going to do these every 2 weeks. I'm doing the Remembering the MCU every 2 weeks on the off weeks. So if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more of these videos. Yes, and we will have more of these coming out. I plan to do this for the rest of the year at the very least. So if you guys want to see more, check back in.
Sounds good.